No matter what you are, I will always be with you. Doesn't matter what you do, girl. Ooh, girl, won't you knock down the old gray wall and be a part of it all? Nothing to say, nothing to see, nothing to do. If you would give me all, as I would give it to you, nothing would be, nothing would be, nothing would be. No matter what you are, I will always be with you. Doesn't matter what you do, girl. Ooh, girl, won't you? Ooh, girl, you, girl, won't you? Ooh, girl, you, girl, won't you?
How fantastic is that? We got the fabulous Jeff Allen Ross with us, former member, or he may still be, no, he's not a member now, of Badfinger during the 80s. How are you today, Jeff?
I am doing fine. Although, you know, where I am, it's morning time, and that's the first thing I've sang today. So actually, with the pandemic, that might be the first thing I've sang in I don't know how long. But anyhow, there you go.
How great is that? It's 4 a.m. here in Melbourne, and no problem staying up to interview you.
Well, have another cup of coffee.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to start asking you, not only are you the musical director for Peter Asher, and I was fortunate and so lucky to interview him this morning. So what a run on from that this morning. Grammy Award winner, and you're his musical director. I mean, how fantastic was that? And before that, you were the musical director for Peter and Gordon.
Well, it changed my life. I mean, I can't stress it in any other terms. You know, meeting Peter, he was an idol. You know, Peter and Gordon. You know, when I was 13, in 1965, you know, I Go to Pieces was one of my favorite records of 1965, and you know, so I was a huge fan. And then, of course, when he started producing James Taylor and the Ronstadt, you know, I mean, it was, you know, he really is one of the 5 greatest producers of rock music ever. You know, I would have to put George Martin at the top of the list, you know, but then there's Phil Ramone and a few other people, but, you know, Peter's one of those guys. And, you know, it's, you know, meeting him was just, you know, the greatest thing. And you know, over the last 14 years, we've become good friends, and it's kind of a remarkable thing. I watched your interview with him, and one of the things you asked him was, you know, who are all the great people you got to meet? Well, you know, in his case, because he was in Peter and Gordon and he worked for Apple and he discovered James Taylor, and you know, it was easy for him. But through him, I've got to meet all sorts of and work with great people. You know, I've worked. You know, Steve Martin has become a friend because I've worked on Steve Martin projects with Peter, you know, I've been on a few Elton John tribute albums, and you know, things that I never thought I would do. So it's been a great experience working for him. And with
I needed to say this because I mean, I love him. All right, he was one of the greatest producers, but you know what? The fact he was with Peter and Gordon, you go to YouTube, and I was telling him this today, and I said, you see you there on the video doing World Without Love, and like now with this, how can I say, the digital explosion and the quality of film that we get, he looks so fantastic now with that red hair doing it. Now, don't get me wrong, he cracks the joke about Austin Powers, doesn't he? When he does concerts.
Yeah.
What does he actually say?
Well, you know, we do a show that goes through his whole career, it's really, about him. And, we do songs, and we've been doing it for about 11 years. And, maybe if we're lucky, we'll get to come down under and, do the show for people down there, because it's a great thing. But we have a film clip where, do you get TMZ down there by any chance? Okay, there are these people that do this show called TMZ, and it's all, paparazzi and following, celebrities around and trying to get, gossip stuff. And they interviewed him. They caught him coming out of a restaurant, and they said, "Were you the inspiration for Austin Powers?" Because there are old pictures of Peter, and they do look exactly like Austin Powers. And Mike Myers has confirmed, because Peter knows Mike, he has confirmed that there are pictures of Peter from 1965 that absolutely is what he wanted Austin Powers to look like. But it's not the personality, not the persona, but just the look. The Buddy Holly glasses and the crooked teeth and the hair and all that. So yeah, it's he was the inspiration for the look.
Why I say that is, you got to understand, we got new generations since he's done Peter and Gordon. So what happens is, you could have a young person, doesn't know what's going on, clicks on YouTube, sees a world without love, and goes, "Hey, is Austin Powers in a new movie, Mum?"
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm sure that happens.
I never looked at it that way, but it would be true. That would be true.
That would be true, because I don't want to say anything, but the character, the look of that time, it's like a dead ringer.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And and when we were off camera a little bit earlier, I was telling you, I just found a film clip from a TV show that Peter and Gordon did, and at the end it was a show called Hullabaloo, and they're having Hullabaloo a Go-Go, and at the very end, they're all dancing, and he's dancing with some of the Go-Go, and you can zoom in on it, and there's Peter looking exactly like Austin Powers, and then doing this, and I'm just going, and I showed it to him the other day, and he thought it was really funny.
Did he laugh?
So
he told me one story. You saw the story that he said he told no one, that he was running away from the stage and he dropped his glasses. And
yeah.
See, that's something. We're doing this, interviewing people. You're learning something all the time. And to learn something like that is unbelievable. I mean, I'm sure you got stories too, that you've been with Peter from fans or whatever that you can say.
Not from being with Peter. I mean, it is interesting because he probably told you we do a radio show for Sirius XM here in the States, and we're now on our 170th episode or something crazy, but you would think that over 14 years, almost 15 years of being with them, that I might have heard everything. I've heard a lot, the "I Want to Hold Your Hand" story, I've heard an awful lot. I know it quite well. But every so often when we're doing the radio show, something will trigger, and he'll go, "Oh yeah, my mom helped Paul with the lyrics for Michelle, because they all spoke French in his house, and so so his mom was one of the people that helped Paul with the, go, that's kind of cool." And the other day we were going to be playing with a little help from my friends, the Joe Cocker version, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I was at Apple when Denny Cordell brought over the recording to play for John and Paul." And you can imagine that if you're doing a cover of a Beatles song and you're going over to play it for the Beatles, it better be freaking good, because and Peter says, "Yeah, I was there," and they played it, and and he played it, and you just went, "Yeah, this is really good." So, little things like that. And over the years, I've heard tons of stories about James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt, Cher. I mean, everything. It's just little things come out. So it's quite an education, and it can be quite entertaining.
Can I ask, have you heard a Australian version of a Beatles song by Zoot, Eleanor Rigby? And it's rocked up so much. It came out in '69. It was a big hit in Australia. and there's no version like it. Have you heard Eleanor Rigby done rock? I
No.
just want you to seriously look up the Zoot, ZOOT, Australian band. I want everyone to look it up. Type in Eleanor Rigby. I'm not joking. Apart from the original version by the Beatles, this is like totally fantastic. And I'm sure the Beatles must have heard it. Someone in Australia must have played it for them in 60.
Oh yeah, I would think so. Yeah, we'll check it out. Maybe we'll play it on his radio show.
No, you really like it. It's like unbelievable. I can't tell you what it was like living here in Australia in the 60s. But now we're not in the 60s. With Badfinger, I'm just saying, how great was that being in the band?
Well, I was. I joined in the mid '80s, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine, who he and I, we grew up together, and he was playing with Joey Molland and Mike Gibbons, who were the two surviving members at that point. And they said, "Hey, we need somebody that can come and sing the hits," and I said, "Well, I was a Badfinger fan. As a matter of fact, his name is Mark Healy, and he and I remember buying Magic Christian album, and I remember he and I sitting at his house and listening to it and going, we love this. This is so great." And so it was a lot of fun to be able to come and learn some of the deeper tracks of the catalog and sing those songs. And over the ensuing years, now I actually do some shows where it'll be a whole concert, basically Pete Ham songs, because there's so many great songs. I was a huge fan, and I love the music, and it was an honor to do that. Joey's still a friend, although I don't normally play with him. Although I hear I'm supposed to be playing with him on a cruise, but that's going to be next year. It was supposed to be this year. It's going to be next year. So, we'll see how it all goes.
Now, Jeff, I'm just going to mention a few names. If you can tell me a story or something about working with these fantastic people. I'm going to start with Mick Taylor from the Rolling Stones.
Mick Taylor, that was he's really one of the most interesting people. I got a phone call, from a friend of mine who used to be the drummer for Elton John, a guy named Charlie Morgan. Charlie goes, friend of mine in London manages Mick Taylor, and he's Mick's drummer, and they're coming to do a tour of the West Coast here in the States. This was in 2000, and they need a keyboard player because the keyboard player can't make the trip. And I said, sure, I'll that sounds fine with me. And they sent me all the material, and I met them I got on the tour bus in LA and met them in San Francisco. We had a sound check rehearsal, and I played the gig that night. It was really just kind of sort of that quick. And they, I don't know how much everybody there understands, sort of like Australia, it's much bigger than the United States, much bigger than most, especially Englishmen, think it is, And the West Coast tour actually went from San Francisco all the way up to Vancouver, Canada, all the way out to Kansas City, Missouri, and Arkansas and Texas, that's not the West Coast. That's like, but it was a 3-week tour, and we did this whole thing. And it was just, he's just such a great musician. And during the course of the tour, we started out and he was just sort of warming up, and he's a fantastic slide player. And about 6 or 7 shows in, I can't remember, we were doing something, and he was playing slide, and I just got goosebumps. And he had sort of hit his stride, sort of warmed up, and I realized how unbelievably good he really was. And it was a lot of fun. And every so often he would, he's a shy guy. He doesn't say a lot. Every so often he would just come out with a Rolling Stones story about, I went to the my audition, when I got the call, when he was 18 or 19, I got the call. I went to the audition and they were all getting high, and then it was like 2 hours before they started playing. And he goes, I think I'm going to go home, And of course he didn't. And, he got the gig, and it was, he was a great addition to the band. But, and he was, that whole tour, he was kind of, to me, it didn't seem like he was paying too much attention. And the reason I bring this up is I was in England about, I can maybe say 6 or 7 years ago. And I was with my friend Jeff Allen, who was the drummer and who's remained a really close friend of mine. And they were doing a gig. And so I went with Jeff, and I hadn't seen Mick, in, 14 years or whatever. And he started telling me all this stuff, and he was really glad to see me. And it was, and he was telling me things about the tour. He said, "You remember the time in the tour that this happened?" I'm just going, I couldn't even believe he was even paying attention, like these details. And it was really quite touching, and it was nice. And then we were doing Peter's show in New York City about 4 years ago, and I think the Stones were in town or whatever. But we were doing our sound check, and I look over the side of the stage, and there he is at the side of the stage, just coming down to see us perform, and it was really nice. So I think of Mick quite fondly. I'm quite fond of him, and he's a quirky guy, but it was quite an experience, working with the Rolling Stone.
Now I'm going to ask you about Denny Lane.
Denny Lane, Denny. Well, I'm gonna say that I mentioned 1965. I was 13 years old. So other than Beatles songs, because I know you're a crazed Beatle fan like I am.
I know. While you mention that, just grab that album next to you just for a second before I forget.
Oh, just for a second.
It's appropriate. Look at that.
That's the American Yesterday and Today, the original cover with the butcher block, with the dolls and the meat. Anyhow, I have one of those. My sister had 2 copies, and she gave me one. So that's how I have that. So in 1965, other than Beatles songs, my 3 favorite songs of 1965, I Go to Pieces. Well, we've already established that I've played that, with Peter and Gordon, and I sing it with Peter hundreds of times, You just brought up Denny Lane. Go Now, Moody Blues. Go Now, my favorite thing. I've worked with Denny for quite some time, and not in the past 3 or 4 years, but so I've played Go Now with the original artist on that, and then I'll move on to a third artist. My other favorite song in 1965 was Ferry Cross the Mersey, and our Peter and Gordon band backed up Jerry for 2 tours. We were the American Pacemakers for 2 tours in 2007 and 8, or 2008 and 9. Anyhow, so I've actually played my 3 favorite British Invasion songs with the original artist, which is, if somebody had told me when I was 13 that was ever going to happen, the synapses in your brain would go, you go crazy.
But I know how you feel. If someone told me I'm going to be interviewing Peter Asher, or someone told me I'm going to be interviewing Susie Quattro, or Mary Wilson from the Supremes.
Oh, she's a friend of mine. She's a friend of mine as well.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But when the doors open, they open. They open for you, and they've opened for me. It's amazing how you brought up, and then you start off with music, takes you into the music. And I say this every interview. No matter what year you're born, everybody's born. Once they understand music, my time period was the Monkees in 67, right? That's when I understood music. In 1964, I was 6 years old. I was too young. My sister, you talk to her, she grew up with ABBA. You speak to someone else, they grew up with Kiss. But you know what
Absolutely.
it is? Doesn't matter where they start, they all end up at the Beatles.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, and speaking of the monkeys, another somebody else who I'm good friends with, and these are all things that happen from, through the course of being with Peter. Is Mickey Dolenz is a good friend of mine, and I've had the pleasure of leading a band to back him up for some charity events. But I've also sat in with his band, because they're all good friends of mine, and if somebody had said, "Oh, Mickey Dolenz is gonna, you're gonna be friends with Mickey," and it's like, really? That's just, it's just a funny, a lot of times I have to pinch myself and go, oh, these are friends of mine. I was supposed to right now be out with John Sebastian from Love and Spoonful, who I became friends with last year. I did some sessions with him through another thing, and he and I became friends. And I'm just, and I know you asked Peter about Chad and Jeremy, and as you may, or I don't know if because I sort of skimmed through the interview, but we do shows with Jeremy. So Jeremy and Chad, they're both really good friends of mine, and there are times where I'll get a phone call, like Chad used to call me on the phone. I'm going, wow, Chad, Chad and Jeremy's calling me on the phone. This is so cool. And then the other person, and I don't know if you have this, but over the last few years, I've been working with Al Jardine from the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
And
Now, you know why I want to show you that? That's actually signed by both of them. I found it in a record store. And how's that? People don't believe that I've got collectibles everywhere. But you see the two signatures there, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how great is that?
Okay, I'm going to outdo you.
Please.
Because you can't see this in my studio. Okay.
So
back in the day, Peter and Gordon and Chad and Jeremy were never in the same place at the same time. They never did gigs together. So they used to be confused all the time.
Of course. Because they was like similar acts.
As Jeremy said, people would go, "Oh, we love how you do World Without Love," and they go, "Oh, thank you." And then Peter and Gordon, we saw you on, because Chad and Jeremy used to do all the sitcoms, "Oh, we saw you on the Patty Duke show last night," and Peter go, "Yeah, it was great." Yeah. So, this is when Gordon was still alive. We actually did a couple shows with Peter and Gordon and Chad and Jeremy together. And of course, we were the band. I got to be the band. This was in Las Vegas. And somebody was taking pictures, and he actually had them developed immediately. And I said, "Can I have that picture?" And he goes, "Yeah." So he gave me this picture. And without even thinking about it, I got all four of them to sign it.
Once in a lifetime.
And so, obviously I can get Peter's signature anytime I want and Jeremy's, but now, Gordon's gone, but there it is. All four of them together.
If you can just bring that a little bit forward, Jeff, that'd be great. Yeah, move it across. Hold it there. That's beautiful. Look at that. Fantastic. Something you'll never get.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody else has anything like that, but very few
doubt
people.
it. I doubt it.
But I do. So, yeah. So it's, that's,
you haven't got anything monkeys, have you? You listen to the monkeys as well, don't you?
No, I don't have any monkeys. Right? No.
No, you know why I'm asking? Because hardcore Beatle fans that I come across, as soon as I mention the word monkeys, they go for their monkey records. And I'm so happy because they're so hardcore Beatles, but they still love the monkeys because they appreciate the music.
Oh, yeah.
About Mickey, he's got one of the greatest voices in rock, and even now, his voice is sounding better than ever.
Yeah, I don't have monkey stuff because all my monkey stuff is my, pictures with me with Mickey, and it's like all, which I don't have anything in here, but I'm a huge Monkees fan, and I'll tell you here's a really funny monkey story just to give you an idea. Back in the 80s, MTV started playing all the Monkees episodes on TV.
Yeah, 1986.
A long time. So my oldest daughter used to watch, in the 80s when she was, 4 and 5 years old. She used to watch the monkeys. So she's, she's in her, in her late 30s, but she's a huge monkeys fan. Huge. She actually has the monkeys lunchbox
Yeah.
and, all sorts of weird, goofy things like that. And there you go. And so we were doing a benefit show where Mickey was on the program,
Yep.
and she came, and I said, "Come on," and I grabbed her, and my daughter's very outgoing, you know, really really fearless and all that, but I grab her, and when she realized I was bringing her over to meet Mickey, she was like, "No, no, no!" She was speechless, absolutely speechless. She couldn't say anything. It was like, it was like seeing, a teenage girl meeting their idol. It was so cool, And Mickey was great. He was just like, "Come on," have you met Mickey? You've met Mickey, right?
I've met everyone except Mike, but the
Yeah.
story is I have a poster that I've had since 1967, since 9 years old, and I'm not going to say my age now, but it took me 38 years to get that poster signed by all four. How amazing is that?
Yeah. Well, no, that's how I do it. So yeah. So Mickey's just so personable and great. So anyhow, I, you know, I'm a big Monkees fan.
See, unless we ask, we don't know. So that's fantastic, because you know what? I reckon you'll go and get a few of their CDs now after this.
Oh no, I have all the music on my computer.
Oh,
Right?
okay, you're laughing. That's it. I love
Yeah.
MP3s. I reckon MP3s are great.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Now,
I have.
getting back to these other people, we've covered nearly everyone. But what I'm saying is, you also worked with Terry Sylvester from the Hollies.
Yep. Yeah.
How was that?
Terry's a quirky individual. That's what I'll say. But the Hollies are really one of my favorite. I think when it comes to the British invasion, they might be my number 2 favorite band. They might be. I don't want to say definitive, but I love those songs. So getting to play all those songs. We did a British invasion tour where it was, Peter and Chad and Jeremy and Terry and Denny, Billy J. Kramer, who I also work with a lot and is a close friend, Mike Pinder from the Searchers. So getting to play all those songs, it's like everything that I grew up with. It's really, it doesn't get much better than that. Bus Stop is, playing Bus Stop is unbelievable. It's just, I love it. So, I've played with, a lot of these British invasion guys. So it's very cool.
That's the best. Now I've got to mention Gary Puckett and the Union Gap.
I've met them. I know the keyboard player. We do these cruises, these 60s cruises, and Gary's on it every other year. So I've met him, but I don't really know him.
Sure. But we appreciate the music.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love those songs. Matter of fact, we were supposed to do a private party for somebody in Beverly Hills, and there was a bunch of people on the bill, and we were backing everybody up. And Gary was supposed to be there, and he got ill. And so we learned all the songs. I know all the songs, but yeah, I've only just met him on the cruises. So
I got to say, you're a big fan of the Turtles.
Love the Turtles. What's not to love about the Turtles?
But you know what my favorite song is from the Turtles? Making My Mind Up. I reckon that's an unbelievable song.
I don't know if I know that well. I thought you were going to say Eleanor, but there you go.
That's the big one that's known. But you got to hear a song called Making My Mind Up. It's Production Plus. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary of the Turtles, but like Howard and
Mark.
Yeah, that's right. The both of them tell a story, and they've got a board, and they go, "We had manager one." Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
And then they go. They used to go to hotels, and they used to put on the British accent, and make it like they're a British band staying. Like the things those guys got up to, unbelievable. I love them. That documentary is like everybody's really got to see that documentary about the Turtles.
Yeah, we did a show in San Diego, and it was Peter and Gordon, the Turtles, and somebody else. I can't remember, but so the Turtles are about to go on, and we're backstage. So on the side of the stage, and Mark has a microphone, and so the band's going on, and there's like music going on, and he's doing the intro. He's doing his own intro. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest vocalist, and he did this whole thing, and he's just sitting there, and it was, I mean, we were just rolling in the aisles. He's a very, very funny man. He's really, really great.
And of course, Chip Douglas came out of the Turtles and went to produce the Monkees.
Yep.
I mean, Daydream Believer, producing that song, unbelievable too.
Yep. No, Chip did great work. He was, made wonderful records. So,
if you have to name, let's say, one artist or band, I'd say band from the 60s, UK British Invasion. I mean, not talking now about the Beatles, but another band. What you think comes in at number 2? Well,
like I was saying, for me, it might be, as far as music that I really loved. I think it might be the Hollies, just because of the song catalog and what the songs were. Because you can, Peter Noone, who's also done a lot of work with, and who's a friend, maybe had, other than the Rolling Stones, may have had the most hits of any of the other bands, other than the Beatles and the Stones. And of course, I love the Stones. I loved all that stuff. But there's something about those Hollies songs and just the vocals. And Alan Clark, to me, is maybe the greatest unsung lead singer of any band. He was, to me, just remarkable. He was just really, really good. So, yeah, I would have to pick them. And then for American bands, I was, the Byrds, huge fan of the Byrds, and I really love Paul Revere and the Raiders, and Mark Lindsay, who again, someone else who's become a friend. And it's I have to pinch myself. I mean, I'm also good friends with Chris Hillman from the Byrds. I have to pinch myself with all these people that I've met, that I become friends with, that were all my idols when I was growing up. It's kind of a remarkable thing.
That's like Fang. I interviewed Fang from Paul Revere and the Raiders. Have you seen that interview?
No. I've met him. I met him once in Las Vegas.
He's coming in from Las Vegas, and we had one of the most fantastic interviews. And the great thing, I've got to explain. When it comes to doing this on the net, a lot of people don't understand. But after we do a show, then we post it out wherever we post it out. Mm-hmm. So I'm a first-generation fan. I know Paul Revere and the Raiders. And I said to Fang, you're going to find this interesting. I said, your version of Louie Louie that you did on Where the Action Is, is probably the number one best version of Louie Louie. I don't know if you've heard it. It's got the organ, Mark C. Oh, yeah. I rate that as the number one version of Louie Louie. Now, also, while I was in discussion with Fang, I already know that Paul Revere and the Raiders were on the TV show Batman in '66.
Yeah, but their version of Louie Louie was that they recorded it before the Kingsmen.
That's why I wrote that as number one. Yeah. But getting back to the TV show of Batman, I knew they were on Batman. It's not every day people go up to me and go, you're on the Batman show. As soon as I said, you're on the Batman 1966 show, he goes, you've done your homework. But I knew it because I'm first generation fan. So he's telling me they're at the Penguins election campaign. They're on the stage. They're being filmed. Now, what you got to understand is, bang, do you know how many Batman fans are out there? I sent that interview to every Facebook Batman group, as well as Paul Revere and the Raiders, so people can hear it. And he said to me, We're the first and only rock band to be on the Batman TV show. How iconic is that,
Well,
as well as being in the band?
That's right. They're the only rock band, but Chad and Jeremy
Yeah,
were on Batman as well.
exactly. And they were great. I remember those episodes.
So, yeah, that's so. And then you know I brought up a little bit before and we sort of skipped by it, but the other person that I work with and do shows with is Al Jardine from the Beach Boys, and you know there's Beach Boy fans everywhere.
Of course. I'm not going to get into Beach Boy fans.
Yeah,
You know how many stories I've heard about Beach Boy clubs on Facebook?
oh yeah, no, it's crazy. So
They're more crazy than the Monkey fans. Believe me.
oh yeah, absolutely. So we do a show with Al. It's Al and his son Matt, who sings like Carl Wilson, and I mean he sings. It sounds exactly like Carl Wilson, and it's just the three of us, and we do Beach Boy songs in a stripped down fashion in a more acoustic setting, and that's absolutely fantastic. And I never thought I'd ever be in the Beach Boy world, so that's like a whole new thing for me. I mean, I never would have thought, at the age that most people retire, that I'd be actually learning how to sing better, because I'm being pushed by a Beach Boy, which is a whole other thing.
You're going to find interesting that I interviewed one of my most musical influences, Bobby Hart.
Yeah.
I did an interview with him. Now he's one of my biggest influences. You think of songs like Last Train to Clarksville, I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, Flip Side of I'm a Believer, written by Neil Diamond. I mean, unbelievable.
They wrote a lot of. As a matter of fact, I have one of my oldest friends who I used to be in a band with from a long time ago. There was a tour in America in 1966, Dolenz, Jones, Boyce and Hart.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was the bass player in that band. So yeah,
that's big. Now I just want to say, Jeff, before we wind it up, have you got anything you want to tell the fans, or anything that's coming up in the future, or any projects you want to talk about, or any links for Peter or yourself?
Things that are coming up in the future, if only.
Well, you're doing this show, so
as everybody there knows, I live in a country that can't figure out what the hell to do about things, because everybody has to argue about everything. So the future really is 2021 and 2022. But Peter and I will be out, doing his show. We'll be doing some of the shows with Jeremy. That's pretty much it. And I'm working on recording some new songs and trying to update my website and all that. So if people want to look at jeffallenross.com, or find me on Facebook or Instagram, at Jeff Allen. Everything is JFFALANROSS. And become friends or fans. And I have a YouTube channel as well that has some videos up there. The Peter and Gordon Band playing day after day, and some other interesting things. So if people want to follow me and make it so that we can come down to Australia and play. I do have some friends in Sydney I would love to see, and it would be nice to come down and meet people down there. I've never been.
Well, Jeff, you got a new friend in Melbourne, so when you're here, tell me and we'll hook up. And also I'll say, can you take us out with a song before we go?
Sure, absolutely.
What would you like to play?
Would you like a Beatles song, a Badfinger song? What do you want?
Could you do a 60s song?
A 60s song. Anything in particular that?
Well, I know you're a music director, so whatever I call out, you should be able to do. How about a Jerry and the Pacemaker song?
Sure. Normally I play keyboards on all this stuff, but I don't have it hooked up for you to do that, so you're getting a guitar. Life goes on day after day. Hearts torn in every way. So very cross and mercy, 'cause this land's the place I love, and here I'll stay. People around every corner, they seem to smile and say, we don't care what your name is, boy, we'll never turn you away. And so I'll continue to say, hearts torn in every way. So very cross and mercy, and always take me there, the place I love, and here I'll stay, and here I'll stay.
I just want to say we send that out to you, Jerry, with love from Jeff and Plastic EP. We think of you and we love you out there in Liverpool. And I just want to say, Jeff, thank you so much. What a fantastic interview we've done.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and I hope to maybe talk to you in the not too distant future again. We'll do some more.
I'm sure you will, Jeff. After this one, we'll be doing another one. See you, everyone.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.